Bilal Powell, and you're watching Dan Sports News.
No, Eric, and you're watching Dan Sports News.
I'm Edwards, and you're watching Dan Sports News.
This is Javon Cornell, you're watching Dan Sports News.
What's up, everybody? Daniel, Dansportsnews Flores here, bringing you another episode of the Dan Sports News and Friends podcast. You can follow me at Dan Sports News on all social media to catch my latest articles and interviews. Today's guest is Jonathan Wynn, who is a defensive end for the Detroit Lions. Check it out. How old were you when you first got started in football?
I was 8 years old, and kind of just kept playing the game ever since 8 years old, and never really stopped loving it.
Due to the coronavirus pandemic, have you been able to get on the field so far and work out?
Yeah, it was still some areas I could go to work out, and I had a connection with a dude on the gym, and I could still lift and everything. It wasn't too hard, I guess, from where I'm at to get my workout in.
Right, for sure. Now, I know you're originally from Georgia, but you played football at Vanderbilt. Tell me about some of the schools that offered you coming out of high school. What schools offered you, and what played the role in you ending up choosing Vanderbilt?
I had South Carolina, I had FIU. I ain't gonna lie to you, it was some more. Once my mom heard Vanderbilt, it was kind of a no-brainer. I didn't really have a chance to visit many other schools. She was just definitely harped on the idea of just going to Vanderbilt, and she was from Nashville, and she knew everything about Vanderbilt when it came to education, and she knew that was going to be it in terms of me doing everything else. And at the same time was Coach Franklin, who was the coach during that time. He made it. She definitely knew how to sell the dream to my mom. So it kind of just that was it. I was going to Vanderbilt.
That's SEC football right there, playing against schools like Alabama, Florida, LSU. How did that help you in your game, playing against those big schools?
Playing those schools, the game, that's what made it kind of easy to play at Vandy, because we was playing against top-notch competition, and we was getting the best out week in, week out, and it kind of made it didn't make playing in the league too hard, because we played some big teams, some fast teams, some great teams along the way at Vanderbilt. So, yeah.
So what's one moment in your college football career at Vanderbilt that stood out to you?
Played Georgia my redshirt junior year at Georgia. It was their homecoming, and we basically won. We wrecked their homecoming. I had a great game. I think that in terms of for them to run the ball, I definitely had a lot of effect on them. In terms of them not, me and the defense definitely did our part to where they couldn't get that many rushing yards on us, and that's when they had Chubbs and good backs to feed the rock to. So that was one of the biggest things right there.
Who was the quarterback of Georgia back then?
I could say Jake Fromm, but I don't know if that was Jake. It was somebody before Jake Fromm. I forgot his name. But he was definitely a big-time quarterback.
Right. I think it might have been Eason. He might have been the quarterback.
Yeah, that sounds about right, yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so after college football, you go undrafted, but the Vikings pick you up. Tell me about that. How would that feel that a team picked you up?
It felt good. I know I worked hard that off-season, that training period, to get to where I was at. I put up good numbers in the pro day, and then they took a shot at and saw my film and believed in me. So I knew this was a good time to showcase my talent. And the Vikings, they definitely knew I was going to be somebody that could play a role or play a part to shifting up the conversation when it came to playing defense for them. So I'm glad they took a shot at me. It was a good time. I learned a lot, when it came to their defense and their defensive line, because that's one of the things the defensive coordinator prides on is the defensive line, and it was a great experience.
And then now the Lions pick you up. How's that going so far? How's OTAs on Zoom calls and stuff like that? How's that working out?
I mean, it's different. You got to learn to play differently, but I feel like this is a good time for a lot of people to really, spend extra time looking at their stuff, spend extra time getting healthy, spend extra time to, really focus on them while focusing on the plays. It would have been definitely different, being up in Detroit, facilities open, things like that. But I guess the way I look at it, this was definitely a test period to see if you really care about your craft, what would you do, especially when you're not in the space that condones, or not condones, but just, encourages football and stuff. It's just like you really got to have your mindset right in order to stay on top of your craft, because you're in an environment that may not be suitable for, playing ball and things like that. So, yeah.
For sure. Now, last season, you played in your first game against the Denver Broncos. How did that feel to finally get out there on the field and play some football?
Felt good. It was a writing on the wall, I felt like, with God, because that was my first ever game my rookie year in Minnesota in terms of preseason games. So I knew it was special to go back to Denver and play. First play I had a tackle. It was just a fun experience, and I knew, I knew from that rookie year game to that game last year that I deserved to be in the league. So I definitely treated that game as such.
And Trey Flowers, one of the defensive ends on the Lions, a guy who has won 2 Super Bowls and he's just 26 years old. What have you learned from Trey? What is some of the stuff that he's been teaching you?
Just to be a professional, you definitely carry yourself in that way. So a lot of things you do, being particular with his details of learning his craft, to take care of his body, to doing things as such. And at the same time, he's also a community man, definitely gives back and helps out in the community. So he's definitely been a great influence to me being in the league.
And of course, as we know, the Lions drafted Jeff Okudah, who in my opinion was the best cornerback in all of college football last season. What are your thoughts on him? He's gonna
do good. He's gonna be under good leadership in kind of our DB room, and with our good coaches, it's definitely gonna be something. There's definitely gonna be a system he can thrive in. So I'm kind of excited to see how he does.
Have you gotten the chance to speak with him yet, or no?
No, personally no, but I think in terms of virtual meetings, definitely saw him. Seemed like he's a good dude, and can't wait to see him in camp.
Now, tell me about this passion you have for writing. When did that start, and when did you get started in writing?
Writing kind of took place more so towards the tail end of my senior year. I feel like it was something I wanted to try to do because I was a history/education major at Vandy, and I wrote a lot of papers, and from all them writing papers, I knew I wanted to write something more, I guess, on creative ways, and I kind of felt like I had a creative mindset to be able to explore more of my passion of writing, because whenever I would share my stories with people, or my written stories with people, a lot of people liked it. So I knew once I graduated Vanderbilt, once I got through from the Vikings, I wanted to explore that off the field while still doing what I do on the field. And I'm just glad to where now it's something I can see myself doing in the future, more so with just sparking my creative interest.
Right. And I saw you wrote an intro piece with the Players Tribune. One thing that I really enjoy is the Players Tribune in sports, that they let the athletes get a chance to write and share their stories. Is that something you're going to continue and do in writing for the Players Tribune?
I'm going to try to see what they talk about. Definitely, continue to keep that connection, keep that bridge connected with them, because they are a good content group, and I feel like I'll definitely have more things to work with them on.
Right. And of course, your book, Summer Juice. Tell me a little bit about that book, obviously without spoiling it, but tell me about that book and why did you decide to write this book?
Well, it's about a shy, introverted kid who found himself one summer with the help of this magical lemonade stand drink. And with that drink, it gets him into a series of events that makes his summer memorable. Sort of a coming-of-age tale, fiction, more targeted towards like the adolescent group. It's a way of like speaking to all kids or all adults who grew up or who had a lot of neighborhood tales when they was little, and how summertime kind of brings up that summer fun, memories of just roaming around, seeking adventure, and basically speaking to how you learn a lot when we get outside the house. And it came to me more so when I just graduated Vanderbilt. I got picked up from the Lions, and I was on this crossroad of just can't wait to get into adulthood, while at the same time I was fine with being Peter Pan. And with that indecision, I started thinking about how as a kid, how times in the summer were just less worrisome. It wasn't many things you could stress about, and how you just really wanted to just have fun and let loose, and how you learned a lot just, from going out, seeking adventure, playing in the streets. And with that, I kind of felt like it spoke to my journey as an athlete and as a person in terms of just, physically and mentally building myself from those times. And I wanted to write a story that spoke to those times, so it definitely had an influence.
And when is the release date on the book?
So when is it?
Yeah, the release date.
Well, the pre-sale period is now. The pre-sale period has been happening since the first day of summer, June 20th, and it'll end June 17th. And then once the pre-sale period ends June 17th, it'll be out on Amazon and all other mainstream sites for people to buy.
And I saw you have the nickname, or for the book author, you wrote Way Back When. Could you tell me a little bit about how you got that name?
So my style is definitely nostalgic, definitely vintage, retro, and everybody knows me as Wynn. People call me Jonathan, but if you really see me out in the streets, people say Wynn, what's up? And I knew it came my style, and how I kind of always had that 90s style, and how I will rock that and flaunt that more. I knew one day it just came to me where I thought about way back, and it came in a song one day to where they said way back when, or like back in the day type vibe, and I knew way back when because it was thick and it was smooth, and it would be a nice little signature and moniker to my personality, so I wanted to stick with that.
Do you plan on writing any more books after this book?
Oh, most definitely. I got some in the stash, some in the safe, so I would definitely want to bring out some, but it's a lot of creative endeavors I want to, spark into while I got the time and while I got the platform.
Right, and I know you also have a clothing brand called I'm Prolly. Tell me a little bit about that clothing brand.
So, the clothing brand, it came, I was listening to a song, it was a remix to Boot Up, and it was by my favorite artist, Takedown. And first lyric on the song was like, I'm probably up. So I basically used that and saw like a vision with it in terms of a design. And with that, I, got a graphic design, put it on the shirt, and started experimenting to see if people would like it. And a lot of people started to love it, and I just started to turn into a brand itself. For now, it's kind of in the hot stage right now. Just it's still a lot of reconstruction I want to do with the website. Or in terms of right now, I want to make Way Back When the whole brand, and then put I'm probably as like a branch underneath it, to where I have different styles underneath Way Back When. So that's kind of where I'm headed towards with the clothing side of things.
And I also saw you do a little DJing. Tell me about that.
The DJing is more just me having fun, just kind of, do my radio voice. I feel like you don't really see that many DJs or disc jockeys now that kind of has that old school feel in terms of projecting their voice and announcing things. So I kind of love to play with that, to where I know a lot of people will want to see me do a podcast or see me do something towards that, and I feel like that would be a good thing too. I'm starting to really I guess I'm starting to really see how I have a voice. I have a gift for talking as well as hosting as well. So I guess this is one of the things to help me work on my craft when it comes to speaking in front of people, speaking to people, and doing content like that.
And I guess we can call you an entrepreneur because you do everything, right? Since you write books, you have the clothing line, DJing, playing football.
Yeah, I do it all. That's I usually be humble when I say that, but nowadays I really can say I do it all. So, yeah.
And now I have to ask you, because as we all saw the breaking news, Cam Newton to the Patriots. What are your thoughts on that?
I hope saying much success to him, because he's a good dude, a good athlete, great athlete, and I believe he'll bring something to the table when it comes to their run, this season run. So, I just want him to be successful, want him to win, do his thing, and just represent, because he's definitely a good athlete that's here to stay. So, just much success to him.
Right, and just two more things. First, what's your favorite football movie to watch in your free time?
Football movies? It's been a while since I watched football movies, but I guess I can never go wrong with Friday Night Lights.
What's your pregame music? What do you like to get? What do you like to listen to before the game? Do you like calming music or something that hypes you up?
Something that hypes me up. More so, like, I'm from Atlanta. The old school Atlanta used to have a lot of Little John, a lot of Lil Scrappy, Crime Mob, After Troy type music that would just get you hyped for the game, and then after the game is more of a I'm a calm down type stuff music. So yeah.
What are your goals for this upcoming season? What do you want to accomplish with the Lions?
I just want to make the 53. That's simple as that. Simple goal. I'm the type to set my goals for the preseason, then go to my goals for the season. But the overall arching goal is just make the 53.
Man, Jonathan, I appreciate you taking some time out of your day to do this interview. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.